Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. We're so glad you could join us today for this exciting session on building competencies by using teaching learning material for our little learners. Before we begin, just a small reminder to you all. Please make sure that you fill the attendance form that I will share in the chat box every now and then. Why is this important? This is a vital part for participation to track your participation for certificates and also for shortlisting names for the upcoming Kaboodle Awards. So please remember to fill in your attendance in the chat box, in the link that I'll be sharing in the chat box. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Miss Anamika Singh, the CEO of Kaboodle, to address you all. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chitwan. Namaskar, everyone. I know how packed your days are. So, the fact that you have chosen to be here says a lot about your passion. We feel so glad. And let me tell you, this isn't just another training box to tick. This is where we roll our sleeves, exchange fresh ideas, and learn and unlearn. And most importantly, what you're learning and sharing really helps us spot the educators and schools who are setting the bar higher. As you all know, your participation certificates and prizes will be awarded by our beloved and my favorite, Dr. Swati Popatwats. Uh, these sessions actually count under, as you all know, under your online CPD as per government guidelines. So you are also adding real value to your professional journey. Now, coming to our star for today, Mrs. Sudha Rajmohan. She has headed some of the most reputed schools and has guided many leading organizations as a consultant. But what makes her special, and my favorite again, is how she can take something as simple as teaching and learning materials and show us their power in shaping competencies in children. You're going to enjoy every bit of her session. That's my promise. And yes, don't forget to ask questions and share your ideas. Thank you so much. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry to all of you. I think I was on mute. So let me repeat again. Thank you, Anamika ma'am, for introducing me here. And thank you, Chitwan, for hosting this show. I would like to, before moving or stepping into the session of the day, I would like to first of all remember this day is very important for every teacher because it is just the next day after Teachers' Day. So I'm sure you all had a lovely day yesterday, and wishing you all from bottom of my heart a very very happy Teachers' Day, though a little belated. I hope you have reaffirmed to yourself, or rather, not just you. A lot of your students would have reaffirmed to yourself how much they love you, because a teacher is somebody who ignites that kind of confidence in every child, be it a 3 year old or be it even a 30-year old. Why I'm saying a 30-year old as a student, today as I stand, after having spent about 3 decades in education sector, into many schools and many institutions, I have reached out to quite a number of teachers, and I have always found something very common amongst all, and I include myself into it, and that is every teacher feels for the child before even the child is able to recognize himself. So teachers have this superpower, the what you call as a third eye, with which they can actually see the child and the skills of the child each day as the children are blossoming in front of you. So, without delay, I would request Chitwan to put us onto the a small little presentation and the backdrop so that we can comfortably talk to each other with some related material that we have. Okay, so you might wonder why am I starting my session with this a very common picture that you all must have also been seeing into your classrooms. So here I have a small question for you, and I want to ask every teacher to look at the different things that is visible here on the screen, and I'm sure while it relates to you, try and see how did you last be, where did you find the happiness in this classroom, and what is it that in the classroom which actually made you successful? What material in the classroom that is visible to you made you very happy because your class was the day's class was successful? Over to the next slide, please. Yeah, Rishali ma'am shares it's a flashcards that she was really able to use and probably make her sessions very wonderful. While I'm sure this picture is there in your mind, Chitwan, can we also move to the next picture? Yes. So there's another picture that you have. This, I don't know whether it reminds me of your classroom, but definitely another picture which would be welcome to many of the teachers. And also, if anybody would like to relate this to the first picture. Toys and some reading material, yes. Soft toys. I can't see soft toys here. In the second picture, yes, in the first one, classroom arrangement, flashcards. Yes, that was there in the first picture. Anybody is able to read my mind why I'm showing these pictures to the second picture? Kitchen items to sorting. Okay. So these are something which you can use for sorting in teaching sorting in classroom. Flashcards and sorting pulses. Wonderful. Flashcards, pulses, and soft toys to keep them busy or engaging them in different activities. Wonderful. So I think with the cues that you have given me, I'm able to really sense that your classroom must be fun, must be happy because you believe in engaging children through teaching learning materials. Before I step into my session fully, I'd like you all to watch this little video where there is this young girl, very small little girl, a toddler, who is speaking to the adults. And this is a TED talk, which is very, very interesting. I'd like Chitwan to please put that on air. So here,
it's about
you
some
will
powerful
find.
things you grown-ups can do.
Yes, please start.
My talk today is about some powerful things you grown-ups can do that shape us as children and the adults we become. How do I know? Because my parents and people around me did them, early and often. I know not all kids are as lucky. Some of my friends, some kids at my school, and many around the world. And I would really like to help change that. Thanks to scientists, we now know just how important
And sorry for that little technical flaw.
health and development, especially our brains. Ari started learning long before he was even born, from inside his mummy's tummy. When Ari was born, he was tiny, and he cried all the time. He was always hungry, and he pooped a lot. Now, he laughs and giggles and makes funny noises. But those are just the changes we hear and see. There's way more going on inside. So, let's talk more about our brains. The blue bag is the rough size and weight of a healthy baby's brain at birth. The red one is a baby's brain after the first year. It almost doubles in volume. And by my age, it's almost 90% the volume of an adult brain. Our brains develop faster in our early years than at any other time in our lives. It can create up to 1 million neural connections every second. But we need your help. Our healthy development depends on these top 5 things. 1. Connecting. 2. Talking. 3. Playing. 4. A healthy home. 5. Community. All of this helps our brains and us reach our full potential. So what's something you can do that can really make a difference?
I think the video is snapping in between. Chitwan, if you're having a problem, I can move ahead and go into the session, or else we just see the full of it.
Ma'am, do you want me to play it again?
No, no, from where it snapped. That's all. Actually, it didn't play fully.
Hey, it's about some powerful things you grown-ups can do that shape us as children. 2. Talking. 3. Playing. 4. A healthy home. 5. Community. All of this helps our brains and us reach our full potential. So what's something you can do that can really make a difference?
Okay, I think that was the part. Thank you, Chitwan. I think let's go to the presentation again. Go to the third slide there, right? So yes, so back to my teachers. Welcome again. So today, as we heard from the host, I am talking about building competencies with TLMs. And you may have got a connection as to what is this video, how does it connect to today's topic? Because we have heard this often from a great psychologist, Benjamin Franklin, who said, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I will learn." This is at the heart of what today we talk about learning by doing, and or we what we involve ourselves in terms of experiential learning. So, as we go proceed to the next slide, I would like you all to just recall how the child, that little child, through her own experiences, was feeling that it's important that today the parents and the teachers and the adults around her actually support in making her grow or making her brain grow. Yes, of course, she felt that probably not all children are getting the same kind of responses as she is getting from her surroundings. So that is where it's a plea. It's a plea where she's talking, she's calling out to people, to adults, to say that, to build our competencies, it's important that we get the right kind of support from our teachers. So I will be sharing this link towards the end of this TED Talk, which is a very simple TED Talk, which is talking about every child can thrive by the age of 5, how every child can thrive by the age of 5. And this is something that I'd like all of you teachers to go through the video completely. This was only a small part which we played here. And also then figure out how does it relate to what we are doing in our classrooms today. So when we are talking about competencies, so I related that competencies can be built using teaching learning material. So what is a competency really? A competency actually means it's a combination of three things which are layered one above the other. So the first level or the first layer is talking about gaining knowledge. We might think that teaching is all about learning, gaining knowledge. Yes, it is about gaining knowledge, but a sedentary knowledge is not of use to anybody unless we know what to do of the knowledge. And that is where it's important that knowledge has to build up to application level. And for that, it has to go through two more layers. And the second layer is about skill. So if a child, let's say, knows about numbers, let us say that we claim that a child knows 1 to 10, is that really enough? Child may just know numbers 1 to 10, meaning that she might be able to recognize the numbers when written as numerals from 1 to 10. Does that guarantee that the child knows how to count? Let us say 5 sticks from a heap of sticks. Maybe or maybe not. So that is what we must next go to. That is, after knowledge, we have to build up the skill. And the skills related to knowing numbers could be many: counting numbers, adding numbers, subtracting numbers, multiplying them, skip counting. There are multiple usages that we can build up, or multiple skills that we can build up over a knowledge. So, just a mere knowledge does not suffice. We need to build up the skill level next. And and the next is an attitude. Have you always found that children learn in a classroom much better if you were to introduce the learning through an activity or a game or a puzzle or a role play? How does that happen? That is because you're building also an attitude. So it's just not the knowledge, but the skills and the attitudes which have to actually grow above it. Then only it actually builds up as a real learning. And that is how the TLMs which you are using in the classroom help you to learn by knowing numbers, by counting objects, and enjoying the math or anything that the child is learned for that matter. Like, for example, a child when looks at a teacher bring in a new object into the class, like a magic box, that's an excitement that the child feels. And that is how a teacher can actually build that kind of attitude. Or a child says with pride that today I have learned how to skip count. I know how to skip count in twos up to 25. So, this is something that the child will actually be able to speak only when there is that kind of attitude the child has already gained of having learned the multiples of 2 up to the number of 24 or 26, that is reaching up to 25 objects that are kept in front of her. So, it is all about knowledge, building onto skills, and then moving on to attitudes. Can we just move to the next slide, please? Right. So I would want now teachers to relate this, whatever I've said so far, into what you have actually seen happen in your classroom. Can you pick up? Can you pick up and go back to your classroom in your minds and think of a classroom moment where a child showed a skill and not just knowledge? I'm referring to the knowledge and the skills as defined by me a little while ago. So when did you observe this? What was it that you observed? Anybody would like to? Can you put down? Tell me by putting down in the chat box. I'd like to see. Apart from, let's say, we talked about numeracy, open and close activity, right? Open and close activities are very important in a classroom. But how does it build a skill? What is the kind of skill that is built? Making unique objects using just an ice cream sticks. Wonderful. Right. That's great. So, for example, if you look at this picture, okay, somebody said sorting threads and knots. Wonderful. So, this picture probably has given a hint to Ruchika ma'am, and she is talking about sorting thread and knots. But what was the objective that you had given to the child? Trying to knot, yes, fine. So, guess what this child is trying to do? Can you guess what this child is trying to do? And what is the knowledge here? What is the skill here? The knowledge perhaps is to, she has been taught hand eye coordination. Yes, that's a skill that you have recognized. That's only if the child has a proper eye and hand coordination will she be able to imitate a teacher who probably has shown how to untie a knot. This child is apparently looking like she is untying a knot. But that learning, it cannot be just that, the teacher writes something on the blackboard. First, you take the first string, keep the string on the second string. Those kind of steps will not help the child to understand. It has to be collaboration skills. Yes, wonderful. A lot of times you would have seen that children in classrooms, when one child gets stuck, the other enjoys helping that child to pick up from that point where he's stuck to the next point by helping him to problem solve. Isha ma'am says problem solving. Yes, wonderful. So these are the various competencies that you can build from the knowledge. Just merely the knowledge does not help. And many a times, what happens is a lot of assessments that we do, or the worksheets that we give, or any kind of small tests that we give, is majorly testing knowledge. Very rarely it helps in testing a skill. Concentration, wonderful. It's another skill that you can. I observed after teaching and about growing plants from seeds. While eating fruit, the child wants to grow a plant. Wonderful, isn't that great? Look at that. How did the child imagine when the child was, saw a seed inside a fruit? The child was able to understand that, okay, that means I will also probably be able to do it. So I will also be able to grow a plant out of a seed, and tries to figure out how to do that. So great. Applying measurement, yes. In fact, this particular picture that I've shown you is a part of a video in which the child was given a task. The child was given a task of a long string and was asked to divide that string into three equal parts. And to help the child, the teacher had given 15 beads. Now, there could be different children solving the same problem in different ways. That is what we call as differentiation. In a classroom, if you find different children doing in different ways, there is not necessarily a reason for you to tell them all to follow the same directions. You can allow them to solve it in their own way, help them out. For example, this child tried to put a knot in the middle, and she was actually struggling a while because what she wanted to do was, into the three strings, she wanted to put the beads and look at the length of the beads, and then she wanted to snap it there, so that she knew somewhere in her mind, she knew that if the beads were equal in number, then the strings will be equal in length. Just imagine how the powerful her thinking was. A little child whom we actually might underestimate. So it's very important in our classrooms that we use teaching learning material, and you will find that children will learn even beyond your learning objectives many a times. Great. I like what Unnati has shared here, that after entering the classroom, children sort their books according to the subject and they place their books accordingly. This is also a great learning. We must allow children to do that. Give them a little time to pick up their books, right? And so this is how small little ways they pick up. And this is what, in other words, we call as life skills. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Right. So, where does this building on competencies come from? When we are talking about building of competencies, actually, this is nothing but an alignment to the National Education Policy, which was declared in the year 2020. And further, we have now modified the National Curriculum Framework accordingly, and we have ensured that elementary education, which is the foundational years of learning, where a child actually builds a habit of learning or understands how learning can happen. So, those early years are very important and critical. As the child also said, that the development of the brain of the child, a child's brain, the way the girl showed us that the brain maturity to a large extent happens by the age of 5, where the child is able to bridge across many little skills to ensure that their thinking is made powerful. But this will only happen if we are speaking to the child, communicating to the child, identifying the level at which each child is, and are able to bring them. Hence, it's very important, and as has been defined by the objectives of the early childhood care and education, also, that we must emphasize on some of these points which have been mentioned here. These are the 5 essential objectives of ECCE, and they are built on making sure that the child is ready for regular school. See, we normally consider the first years as primary years before the child goes to primary school, which is actually a formal school. But today, thankfully, NEP has recognized this and has made these formative years, the first 3 years, also part of regular school. So most of the schools now across India has The first three beginning years also very structurally formed and with learning objectives which have been put in very clearly. So let's try to follow these with making sure the child is ready for school, is ready for play and exploration is happening in the classroom. There's a lot of diversity, but yet in that diversity, the teacher is able to apply differentiated learning. Differentiated learning means that one size does not fit all, and each child does not learn in the same way. So we have to provide different opportunities to different children. And we also need to make sure that these activities are including every child with diverse needs. And that is why we call it as an inclusivity. And we also want to ensure that there is not just engagement of children with the teachers in the classroom or with the peers, but also there's an extended learning that happens when the child leaves the school and gets home, so that parents are included. Very important for sharing your strategies with your parents during parent workshops, and extend it beyond that to the community as well, because children meet across, and therefore whatever projects that you suggest, you must ensure that you allow the child to showcase the skill learned along with the knowledge, and builds an attitude to make sure that her competency is thoroughly built. And of course, towards end, I must not miss this out. Health and well-being of the child is most important, and that is something that we should not. And thankfully, these days, CBSE has made it a mandate that physical education cannot be treated as one another activity subject, and that is a subject which normally is replaced by some other subject when we find that our syllabus is lagging. Syllabus for physical education also cannot lag really. So that is how. So what I'm trying to say is this teaching learning materials that you have in class will help you to connect and bridge the gap between any kind of abstract learning to a real life learning which is concrete in nature. And little children may take time to build this connect, and that is why TLM is a clue to connect the abstract to the concrete. Can we go to the next slide, please, to understand this more? The indispensable role of TLMs, therefore, lies in three different aspects. So, number one is making abstract ideas into concrete, as I said. A child will not understand what you mean by saying adding unless you showcase to say that in this basket I have 5 apples, but there are 5 children, 8 children in the class. How many more will you put into this basket to make it 8? So the counting of 5 plus 3 more apples put into the basket to make it 5 helps the child to understand that 5 plus 3 makes it 8. So it is not just about writing down 5 plus 3 equal to 8 or helping it is all about using concrete objects to make sure that this number the number stories are made more real in classroom. We must definitely encourage exploration. I want teachers to tell me here, when did they last use exploration into their classroom? What do I mean by exploration? Can you take a hint and understand? And can you share? It should be more practically done with children participating in the activity. Yes. Would that not be called as engagement? I'm talking beyond engagement. I'm talking about exploration. What would you mean by exploration? Engagement is, of course, important. Concrete to abstract, we would actually build initially for little children from abstract to concrete. Concrete to abstract will be a level which we will pick up when the children are grown up and go to middle years more than during primary years. During a story session, a child connected the characters' feeling to their own experience, showing empathy. Yes, that's a way where you can have some kind of empathy is shown by the child, and there's an attitude. Exploration. What is exploration and what's curiosity? Making pupil do hand on for the concept taught in class. Yes, that is so where the child explores herself. Now you showed the child, for example, you showed the child 5 plus 3 apples make it 8. Now you leave the basket to the child and say that now I went to other class and there were 9 children there. How many more will I have to add now? So you extend, allow children to explore. And then you tell the children that you want to do a next activity. Divide those 9 apples between 3 children in the class. How will you divide this? Now, it's not that that child in that age knows division, but if the child has TLMs, teaching learning materials, like a basket, a real basket with 9 apples, what will the child actually try to do? She will actually give one each to all the three, again second each to all the three, and second each, a third each to all the three, and now she'll realize that each child is getting three. So it's possible for you to allow children to explore on their own and tell you in what way they can do certain things. It's not always important that you tell them the methods and the children will follow the same method. It's important to set a routine by just giving them clues and allowing them to bring a product out of it. Wonderful. Great. She's gone to the next level. Thank you, Ankita ma'am, there. So you have talked about how you can go to the next level. Supporting differentiated learning is another thing that TLMs are able to do. What I mean by supporting different levels, differentiated learning is that different children in a class may not learn by same pace. And by this, I'm not talking about children. So, because many a times teachers immediately say that, oh, there is a slow learner. No slow learners. In early childhood, let me tell you this myth is to be broken. There is no child who's a slow learner in early childhood. Till the age of 5, the pace of learning of different children are different. It does not make any child smarter than the other child, or it does not make any child a slow learner. You cannot distinguish slow learners at this point. There could be a child with, let us say, a speech delay. Now, a speech delay is not because of any kind of a medical problem the child is occurring, but it could be a potential medical problem if not attended to. And what could be the reason of speech delay? Can somebody write down here in the chat? What could be a potential reason for a speech delay? Agree, all the children are unique. Yes, every child is unique. And that is why today we do not call the children with special needs, or rather, we tell them they're differently abled. We don't say that they have lower skills. Every child is unique, so we have to use TLM according to their potential. I would not even use the word potential. I would actually like to kind of remind you that a delay is not a abnormality. Without siblings, or yes, speech delay, one of the key reason could be shrunken homes. We have very small homes today, and there is a single child. I come across so many young couple these days saying that no, we can't afford to have a second child. But are they thinking, without a sibling, that one little child, whom does he speak to? No, parents are there. I'm not saying the parents are not there, but communication with parent is a communication with an adult you need to have. So nuclear families. So what do they do? So definitely you have to provide them opportunities. Evening play is important, and it's not something which is optional. You should let children play with their mates, and giving the children a screen is definitely not the solution. Speech delay may be due to low interaction, communication with significant adults at home and in the environment. These days, we find that adult also is quite busy on the screen, and they say that children are not allowed screen. Now, that is not fair play, and that is something which children understand. So, exposure to mobiles and screen, that is the biggest and the largest culprit of speech delay as of today. And especially after the COVID, we have actually seen this more prominent because homes are still shrinking. Homes are shrinking, and parents are many a times not. See, do we can always go to another session related to use of screen time, but I just wanted to mention here. So it's very important that in this class we able to support the children with such kind of material which will help them to overcome any of these. And this differentiated learning is possible because we have teaching learning material. So simultaneously you can provide different stations, workstations, where children who like to play by drawing can do by drawing. Children who learn by kinesthetic mode can actually go and actively play with certain things like clay, or a sand tray or something like that. Children who like to role play can actually communicate in that manner. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Sorry, I'm sorry. I think I just had to, there was a disconnect. I hope I'm back. Can somebody confirm you're able to hear me now? Yeah. So connecting TLMs to experiential learning. So I would like you teachers to put on the chat, how do you connect TLMs to experiential learning, and what is experiential learning? Though here we talk about experiential learning is all about learning by doing, but how is experiential learning also different from learning by doing? Can anybody mention here in the chat? I'm waiting for an input, because experiential learning is beyond learning by doing. How is it beyond learning by doing? I'll mention here, because learning by doing is more when there is an instructional method which has been told to children and children are following that. But when we talk about experiential learning, the exploration comes first. Children experience some new learning, and from the new learning, they all evolve and they come back with certain outcomes or what they have learned. So they share their learnings. For example, if you're talking about open ended, yes, we leave open ended questions. Yes, that's right, ma'am. And we also ensure that every child's answer is webbed into the real learning. And so finally, what we conclude will have inputs which are coming from all children. And that is where experiential learning takes into account the experience of every child in the group. Let's move on to the next slide. Some of the examples have been also mentioned in the slides, to note that. So there's a lot of importance to real world applications. When you have real world applications into the classroom, we make sure that children learn better, and the learning is more it stays with you. It means that the learning is more um, stable, and it stays with you, it becomes concrete. So the abstract to concrete is where this could really happen, and where we will be able to see children able to apply. So the real world connections. Some of the real world connections here, can teachers recognize what am I depicting the real world connections in these three pictures? Let's go one by one. First picture. What kind of real application are you able to see here? What kind of teaching learning material is this, and what kind of skill do you think the children are learning here, and what is the knowledge that a child may gain here, and what is the skill? Color sorting, yes, wonderful. That's a great skill that you can put, because you got crayons of different colors. Yes, anything else you can think from here? Is it float or sink? Yes, why not? These could be objects of different density, and which could be given to children and can be used for float or sink. Any more? See, it's an open ended question. I'm not saying that there's only one answer to it. Colors, yes. Color discrimination, yeah, yeah, that's like sorting. Anything more? So that's the second picture. Okay, let's go to the second picture in the hopscotch game. It's a hopscotch game. But what do you think the teacher has used? What kind of learning and what kind of competency is being built? That is, what is the skill that is being happening? Learning numbers in second picture. Okay. So does it limit ourselves to learning only up till 8? If you had a hopscotch, could you use which has numbers marked from 1 to 8? Can I use it for, let us say, go for numbers beyond 8? Let's go to up to numbers 20. Can we do that as well? Yes, it encourages a lot of physical movement. So this allows for differentiated learning of children who have kinesthetic ability of learning. Those are learners who are kinesthetic learners. It's a gross motor activity, so it suits well to kinesthetic learners. Okay, let's go to the third picture. What is it reminding me of? What is that depicting? The third picture. What could you, yeah, sorting vegetables and fruits. It's interesting and healthy way to guide them about. Yes, probably the teacher is asked to create a market scene or an animal. I think from the picture that I can see, it's an animal farm scene. The child has been asked to create. So here there are so many things. You can creativity is there, kinesthetic learning is there, storytelling can come in here because the child can be asked to talk about it. Yes, webbing a story. You could involve. Yes, wonderful. We could have you use 5 to 6 children together, and from one child to another child, the story could be webbed, and imagination and creativity. And so, do you see how we are relating to the 21st century skills? We are not limiting ourselves to only one simple learning. See, otherwise, what are the three subjects that we normally would put in our time in our kindergarten classroom timetable? Let us say we'll say literacy, numeracy, and theme learning. But when you actually involve them with teaching learning materials, you're actually able to go beyond. Yes, this could be a show and tell activity where you are incorporating literacy skills as well as creativity skills, problem solving skills, and real life thinking skills. Wonderful. Yes, and even a story comprehension. Immediately after this, one child tells a story, another child could be asked questions over the story. So, focus, uh, recalling, imagination, creativity. Yes, wonderful. These are things that can actually be, put into the thing. Uh, Great. Thank you. Thank you. I seem to get to know from this group that teachers have been using all these different activities, and you appreciate the fact that teaching learning material is not just another tool extra in the classroom. It is not a burden for you, but it is more of a catalyst which makes your classrooms better. Yes, they will also overcome the fear of talking and be able to talk comfortably or even on stage. Okay, so that means we can use simple materials, day to day materials, or structured teaching learning material, or we can even if I don't have material, role play by itself is also actually aids or works as a TLM in a way, where you are giving different roles to different children in a classroom. In fact, I give you a cue here. You can explore, just like we tell children to explore. I would like this group of teachers to explore and identify what is six hat theory. There is a strategy which is used in a class which is called as the six hats. What is De Bono's? This was introduced by a psychologist by name De Bono. De Bono's six thinking hats, it's called. So, what are these thinking hats? What are the six thinking hats, and how does it enable a classroom? So, I leave this as one question, which probably, in the subsequent boot camp sessions that you will have, you can research over, think over, and add into whatever, as Anamika ma'am said in the beginning, you will be sharing your learnings. You can include that into the learning. So let's go to the next slide, Chitwan. Yes. So these are the regular teaching learning material to which we normally use in a classroom. There are literacy TLM ideas, flashcards, sticky notes. These are quick and easy to use. Sensory trays, which we use using either sand or we can use suji, whatever is convenient at the moment. Puppets, hand puppets can be used, finger puppets can be made. Children can actually be asked to use simple finger puppets to begin with. They can move on to hand puppets, and then finally they can also be doing the string puppets. So that actually that skill will double up and increase, and the level will be better. Plastic slates are very, very useful because if you laminate your sheet, you can rub and reuse it. Ice cream sticks are got, I think, wonderful number of usages that we can look at. Let's move to the next slide. This is all for literacy skills. And for numeracy, we use things like earbuds can be used, clothespin can be used, cardboards can be used, and squishy bags are very wonderful. Children love using that. Hula hoops and paper cups, and there's a lot of color, there's sort of variety. And bindis, simple bindis, dot cards or simple bindis can be used. Children love to do that. And pebbles and twigs. So these are TLM ideas. So you can see that there could be some which are very structured, but some which you can hand make it. And yes, you can use paints to color them to make it more. Yes, clay is a very, very useful thing. But somehow, yeah, I would definitely not, in a country like ours, we should not suggest edible items, because I've seen many a school sometimes children use, let's say, this spaghetti edible material for sometimes, or even atta for that matter. Because in our country, I don't think we can afford it. There are so many people who are going hungry. So we should be respecting that and not using edible items. There should be more of use and throw material, which we should be reusing it, recycling it, and generally teaching children also to keep them safe, pick it up, and keep it back. That reminds me of Montessori method. See, Montessori method emphasizes a lot on children becoming strong in terms of self being independent. So they are asked to pick their material. We don't provide them all the material all the time. Teacher is not always giving them material, taking away things from them, but allowing them to themselves create that habit of using material and keeping it back where they picked it up from. Yeah, Play-Doh to develop. Chole and Rajma are also given, but yes, that's just my personal philosophy. Pista shells are fine, but when I say Chole and Rajma, I'd rather, in this time of acute scarcity of food for many people, especially in this period of time where we had so much of rains, I would say let's not use. Disposable plates and glass, yes, wonderful. We can use these kind of material. Right. Let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So the third is EVS, or the theme learning, as we say. See, EVS is not a separate subject. To me, EVS is like building children life skills and some amount of common sense. That common sense appropriate to the age the children pick up through EVS as a subject, as we may call it. But EVS is a culmination of literacy and numeracy skills, because whatever the child has learned through literacy and numeracy, the logic and the language which the child has learned through literacy and numeracy, we are trying to just build it up together to understand the world around the child. So whether it's to know about the family, about the people in the family, or the place where I live, the countries and the capitals and whatever we are learning, talking about fruits and vegetables, sensory charts, and we are talking about knowing about ourselves and all these different TLMs ideas we can use, but related to their surrounding. Don't treat EVS as a separate subject, and don't consider TLM to be a burden. We can, yes, wonderful. I like this idea, Maitli ma'am. Conduct a fruit salad party in the class. Imagine the kind of joy that will be in the classroom when we have something like that, and the children learn so many skills through that. Wonderful, great. So, six hats. Yes, I will definitely wait to hear from Asma ma'am about what these red indicates: red, white, black, yellow, green, blue. Yes, you have recognized it. These are the six thinking hats, and explore, research, and find. Okay, let's move to the next, or I think this is the culmination slide. Chitwan ma'am. Yes. Okay, now it's time over to you. I want to hear from you again. How do you currently use TLMs in your classrooms? You have talked about it, some of you have already mentioned it, but I just want you to recall. Dry leaves stick on paper. Okay, now let's look at this one particular case, or dotted dice. Let's hold for the some time. Let's look at these two examples. Dry leaves. Uh, we are using in, what is the particular knowledge that you want to teach the child, what is the skill that you want the child to gain here, can you identify? Using dry leaves which are pasted, what kind of knowledge can you teach them? What kind of, okay, logical thinking, all right, but what is the logic here in terms of using dry leaves? Specify exactly. I'm just trying to test you as to whether you were able to get what I mentioned in the beginning of what you mean by competency having three components of knowledge, skill, and attitude. Okay, somebody else can try create imagination. Yes, wonderful. So creativity. So your one of the skills that you gained here is building creativity. Wonderful. More, any more TLMs? Anybody wants to talk about concepts and practice? White facts, yes. Red emotional. Okay, Asma ma'am is talking about the six thinking hats. Great, wonderful. We will talk about it sometime later. Let's get back here. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Which competency do you, yeah, we talked about it. So the competencies that we are helping, counting, wonderful. So counting is one of the in the picture, as you're seeing, the child is learning the competency of being able to count. Like, okay, short and long, yes, that's another. So you are able to actually build on short, the difference between size. Body control, learning to stop or start. Yes, wonderful. That's a great idea. Sheila ma'am initially also mentioned this. Observation skills of shape and size. Great. Wonderful. And counting numbers. Great. Okay. Can we move to the next slide, please? I think that's this last slide that we are talking about. Yes, Chitwan ma'am. Right. So to summarize, we started the session with a little video. I would request all teachers to look for that video. The video is about every child learning, thriving by the age of 5, growing and learning, thriving by the age of 5. This is a TED talk that it is possible for every child to do this, and how it is possible and how adults can help. Go through that slide. I would want all of you to go through that and through that TED talk and try and answer some of the questions like, what are those 5 ways in which we are connecting to children? So, how are we connecting the children uh, into learning process? So these are the things that you should answer and add it into your. So thank you all. I'm so overwhelmed by the kind of responses that I've got in terms of each and every query. I could go on and on because teaching learning materials are something which really help you build competency. And I'm happy to see that this group is really using it very well. And thank you for sharing your thoughts and ideas. And thank you so much. And let me conclude my show and hand over to Chitwan ma'am for summarizing. So, thank you to every teacher. And with that, namaskar.
Thank you so much, Sudha ma'am. It was really lovely, and it was Truly inspiring session, and it was amazing session. Thank you so much, everyone, for your energy and questions. And yes, there are awards for these. You know that. Yes, there are. So, as we told you earlier, Anamika ma'am also told you about this. A big thank you to Sudha ma'am and to Anamika ma'am for setting the tone and the vision for today. Before we close this, just a last reminder. I've shared the attendance link in the chat box again. Please do not miss to fill your attendance for the certificates and awards. We will be coming back on Tuesday, same time, with our next session. As you can see here, the topic for the next session is here. The topic would be creating inclusive classrooms for diverse learners. And we would love to see you all there. This would be on Tuesday, the same time. And you will be getting the link and all the other details about the session through your WhatsApp messages. Once again, I am just posting the link again in the chat box so that you can fill the attendance if you haven't. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a great evening. See you on Tuesday. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a great evening. See you on Tuesday.